Well, hello boys and girls, and welcome to Nature Matters with Mr. Will. And I am going to be taking you on adventures every single day for this entire summer camp. We're going to hang out by the creek and we're going to go on hikes. We're going to have lots of fun, and you just join in every day right here. And we're going to do lots of sometimes silly things, sometimes fun things. We're going to learn about nature, we're learning about a little about gardens. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, today we're going to talk about watersheds. And a watershed is not a shed that's out back that's filled with water. Nope, it's not that. It is a place. So, I'm going to give you a challenge. Whenever I say challenge, you guys say bring it on. So, I'm going to give you a challenge, and you guys say bring it on. So you have to say that. You have to say it. No matter what, you got to say it. So, I'm going to give you a challenge. Bring it on. Very good. The challenge is, take your hands like this, put them up there, wave them, hi, and then breathe slowly down. Breathe again. We're going to be a tree. Everyone be a tree. Good. These are your leaves, these are your branches, and then breathe in. Then breathe down. One more time. Become a tree. And then take a breath in, and breathe out. Good. Now we're fully grounded and ready to go. And of course, trees are all around us, and that's a part of a watershed too. So, we're gonna do a model of a watershed, and you carry a model of a watershed in your hands every single day. So when you go like this, you may have not done this, but if you ever put your hands out when you're in the middle of a camping trip and you want to get some water and you have one of those water spouts, you have to pump like this and you put your hands out like this and you drink in that cool water, well, you're making a mini watershed right there. Now, your hands, let me show this up close here. Your hands are like a mini watershed, and they are, well, they're like mountains. So you got this mountain ridge here, and the tops of the mountains, the tops of the hills, are the tops of the watershed. And the bottom of the watershed, the very, very bottom, the lowest point, that's where, guess what flows there? Starts with the W. That's right, the water flows to the bottom. And then it flows in a river or a lake. It flows into a lake, or it could even be the ocean. Now, as we see in our hands, look at your hands, put your hands together. There's a challenge. Bring it on. Put your hands together and make a mini watershed. And if you look closely, you've got little lines in your hands. Let's pretend that those lines are the rivers. And those smaller lines are the streams. And the tiny, tiny little lines, those are like the tiny tributaries that form before like little rivulets before they become streams. And they're all kind of floating and they're all going, all the lines, all the rivers, all the streams are all going to the lowest point. So, top part is here, put it together, look at all the lines, they all flow, because if we were to put water, just happen to have some water right here. If I put a little water at the top of my hand, it's going to flow just a little bit. It's going to follow those lines down to the bottom, and all the water is going to flow down those lines right to the lake or to the stream or to the river. Now, if you really want to understand a watershed, you just look out your house and you're on a watershed. And your house is on a watershed. And if I jump up and down, I'm on a watershed. So everybody, let's do that real quick, 3 times, 3 jumps. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 3 jumps for the watershed. We got to keep moving. And so, watershed is a land that the water flows across and it goes into the lowest point of water, which is a stream or a river or a bay. Yeah. And we are part of the Chesapeake Bay watershed. We want to always make sure that we can keep our land as clean as possible, because have you ever gotten a report card? Yeah. So a report card tells you how well you're doing, and the land is the report card of the watershed. And how well we take care of the land, the results will show up in the river and if we have a dirty land, we'll have a dirty river. So if we can keep our land clean and keep it free of all the things that sometimes end up in there, so it's just trash and cans and that type of thing. If we can keep those out, that'll help the animals. And who else will it help? Fish, yeah. And there's one more creature. There's one more creature that it'll help. And I'm gonna bring him out here. Yes, indeed, it's beaver. Beaver, the largest rodent in North America, formerly known as Castor canadensis. But beaver is quite the character. And beaver, you've ever heard the expression busy as a beaver? Well, this is beaver. And beaver is always busy. Yeah, you are. And hello, beaver, how are you?
I'm fine. Yeah, I'm a little bit busy right now because I'm building a new dam because it's starting to get weak, and I have to put more sticks in it and mud, lots of mud.
So beaver builds dams, and he slows down the water. And when beaver slows down the water, that helps provide home for a lot of other creatures, such as fish and birds that eat fish, and snails and frogs and lots of different creatures. And beaver, do you eat some of these creatures that live there?
No. I eat things that grow, like trees and water plants, and I eat the bark, and I eat the leaves and the tender shoots, and I like willow and maple and all sorts of hardwoods that grow near the river. Yeah, I like to eat trees, and I use trees to make my house.
Oh yeah, your house. I've seen your house. Boys and girls, have you ever seen a house like along the riverbank, or maybe like on an island, or in the middle of a lake, and like it looks like a big, huge pile of sticks? That's called a beaver lodge. Yeah, beaver lodge. Now beavers are pretty cool. Beavers can swim underwater for, does anyone want to take a guess how many minutes a beaver can hold its breath and swim underwater?
It's a long time.
I know. Think it's more than 5? Think it's more than 10? Think it's more than 12? How about 5 and 5 and 5, 15? It's 15 minutes a beaver can hold its breath underwater. And beaver can do that for a long time. And oh look, there's a beak. That wasn't a beak. Anyways, beaver can hold its breath for a long time. So, that's important because every now and then, sometimes maybe somebody might come running along that could be interested in eating beaver, such as bobcat, and bear maybe, and sometimes they'll eat the kits of the beaver. So they have to be aware at all times. And one day after beaver is born, the little kits, the young ones, they can swim. So they're ready to go. And they have webbed paws, webbed feet, and they can swim really fast.
My tail is like a rudder, and so when I'm swimming underwater, I like to steer myself with my rudder, which is my tail. Yeah, that's right. And sometimes, when things get kind of like scary or dangerous, like there's a bear on the shore, or maybe a person, I'll just run and jump in the water, and I'll take my tail and splash it. So splash with my tail. That way I'll let all the family know that they gotta dive. Go deep, go underwater, quick. Yeah, it's the beaver call.
Now you're probably not gonna see beaver because beavers like to come out at when?
At night. I'm a nocturnal beaver, and we're all nocturnal, which means we come out at night, and we prefer that. Yeah, we really do. I like night a lot. It's just, it's just a more relaxing time. You can see the stars, and it's just quiet, And, I can chew as loud as I want. It doesn't bother anybody. So that's what I do. And I go up on land. There's not as many creatures up there on land at night. And of course, I don't go too far up on shore because I got to get back to the water in case somebody comes along and wants to eat me. So I got to run, and then dive into the water. Well, I'm not very fast on land.
I understand. Yeah. Now tell me about your
special adaptations that you have to help you live in the water. Well, Yeah. I like to have lots of clear visibility, meaning you can see well underwater. Yes, I can see well underwater because I have membranes or eyelids that close over my eyes that help me see, and they're clear, and that way I can swim. Kind of like goggles. Yes, exactly. And you know what? What? Have you ever gotten water in your ear or water up your nose when you dive?
Yeah, I have. It's not fun. It's why, yeah, it's just no fun at all.
Well, I've got special nose plugs and ear plugs built into me, and I just close down my ears and close down my nose, and I can swim as fast as I want and dive down, and I don't get water in the nose.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good. And any other parting words of advice for us before you dive off and into the water?
Keep your watershed clean. Yeah, just keep it clean. That's all. Just, throw your trash in the trash can and throw your recyclables in the recyclables, and I'll be happier. We'll all be happier, won't we? Yeah. All right. Well, this is about all the time we have for Mr. Beaver here, and because we're going to head down to the creek and we're going to do some fun down there, do some exploring down in the watershed. And remember, everything goes lower and lower and lower to the watershed, so the water always flows to the lowest part. And Beaver, will we see you in Horse Creek? No, I don't live in Horse Creek, but I do live along the James, and you'll see me down there. Matter of fact, you can see probably some of my trees that I've chewed on, and yeah, that's good. I like trees.
We're going to head down to the creek, and then we're going to enjoy a little bit of the creek, do some fun stuff down there, and that'll be our activity for the day. So, see you in a bit. Everybody lives in a watershed, and your watershed is your home. So we are going to make a city in this watershed. We're also going to make a forest in the watershed. And this is something you can do at home. You can do it in your backyard or your front yard. You could do it at a park. You could do it at a playground. As long as you're not picking live branches or live plants, you can make your watershed. So right now I'm going to start with the city, and I've got some Lincoln logs here, but you don't need Lincoln logs. You can just use sticks. Good old sticks are good. Just grab some sticks if you want, and that'll work fine. So, but I'm starting with some Lincoln logs. We happen to have some at the community center here at Pine Camp, and I'm going to make a building. And this building is going to represent a lot of different buildings. It's going to represent, what are some buildings in a city, by the way? Can anyone think of one? How about one that's downtown? It's kind of tall. And a lot of government offices are there. Better known as City Hall. Yeah. But what about places you go to shop? What are those called? I can't. Did you say store? Oh, okay. What are some of your favorite stores? Grocery stores? Good healthy food stores? How about like a sporting goods store? How about a place where you buy like nails and that type of thing? Like a hardware store? Yeah. All right, so this is going to represent our stores. And we have a hard surface to represent the city. Why do you think we have a hard surface to represent the city? What can you think of in the city that is also kind of hard? And your car, your parents' car, your brother's car, or uncle's car, drives a lot on these surfaces. What do they call those? Streets, that's right. So you've got streets, highways, freeways, and all of those streets are hard surfaces. And in the big world of planning and development, they would call that an impervious surface. In other words, if I was to pour water on this, would the water go right through the plastic, or would it run off? Yeah. And if it runs off, and we have lots of cars running on top of that, and cars have brakes and brake oil or brake fluids, and they have oil that helps run the engine, and they've got parts that sometimes start to break down, and so these cars are running over these surfaces. And when sometimes parts of the particles of the engine, or maybe droplets of oil, that type of thing, get on the surface, and it rains, where do you think that goes? it goes into the lowest part of the watershed because it flows into drains, and the drains go into the rivers, and that's where we end up with pollution, which they call non-point source pollution. You can't point at it, but it's coming from many different places. Yeah. So we've got our car, got our little matchbox here, and got our home. This could represent a bunch of homes. And of course, people in homes sometimes have lawns, and sometimes they put fertilizer on lawns. Sometimes they put too much fertilizer on lawns, and where's that fertilizer going to go when it rains? If they put too much on, it's going to go into the drains. Yep. So we naturally create pollution just by living the way we do sometimes, but we can live smarter, and we can do different things that help prevent this pollution. But we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So we've got our city here, okay? We've got our city, got our cars, and of course we have parks in the city, so that helps create what we call green spaces and vegetation. And vegetation does something very special to water, which we'll think about and learn in just a little bit. So let's go over to the farm. And we have the farm over here. And the farm is out in the country. It's way away from the city. And what do they have on farms? They have animals. And what kind of animals do they have? E-I-E-I-O. Moo moo here. Cows, of course. The barn. And it's a small barn. They're miniature cows. And we've got cows and pigs and sheep and goats, chickens. And if they're big farms, they're going to have what's called pollution from the animals. And that's also called non-point source pollution because it flows into different streams and that kind of thing. Now, there are regulations to prevent that, but there still is pollution that gets into streams from farms. And we are going to have some farms here. We'll pretend that these Lincoln logs are going to be the animals, and these are the cows. Lots of cows. And what do cows do after they eat? They go poop. Yep. So that creates pollution, and so when the cows are out there grazing, and it rains, that will run off to the lowest point into streams, and that creates problems. But there's solutions to that too. Yeah. All right, boys and girls, we're gonna make a forest now. So we've got the city, we've got the farm, and we've got the forest. We don't have the forest built yet. So I went out and gathered a bunch of leaves, which is a natural part of the floor on the forest. And I got a bunch of branches that fell down during a major storm. So we're gonna make the forest. Got some nice sweet gum branch here that fell down. And of course we have to add the floor. So we've got some leaves here. Nice, beautiful, decayed leaves, which turn into rich soil. Yeah. And we have to add a few leaves to the old farm here because the farm typically grows crops. So the forest is over here, farm is here, we got crops, and we're looking good. Now, we have city, we've got farm, and we've got forest. We're gonna do an experiment. We're gonna pour some water onto the surface, and we're gonna sprinkle just a little bit of dirt on it, and we're gonna see what happens to the dirt and the water. Will the water fly off and just kind of roll off, or will the water stay here and soak in? Because what happens when we pour water into the grass? Does it run off or does it sink in? Let's do the experiment. Let's do a test. Here we go. All right, so we've got some water. Let's pretend we have a little bit of a, let's say that somebody put too much fertilizer on their lawns and they did it just before it rained. They didn't follow the directions. So let's see what happens. We have a nice car up here and everyone's driving around, and all of a sudden we have a huge summer rainstorm, and it pours onto the roofs and it flows off and immediately just goes everywhere. And what happens to that water? the water flows off the roads and goes into the drains, which goes into the river. Now, let's see what happens to the farm over here. So here we have the farm, and I'm just going to pour some water. We're going to put a little bit of dirt on here, top, on the pasture. And of course, some farms, what they do is we'll see what happens with the water first. And the water's kind of running off. Yep. So as the water runs off, it tells us that we probably need a thicker vegetation there if we really want to hold on to that water. And what they do in some farms is in the corners of each farm is they typically have vegetation, which sometimes organizations will actually pay farmers to not plow all the way to the corner, and then they grow vegetation, and then they'll put like game birds there, like pheasants and that type of thing. And so everybody kind of wins. And vegetation on the edges of the corners of the farm will catch the water, hold on to it for a little bit before it goes flowing straight into a stream. So it's a good thing. Now here we have the mighty forest, and we can put a little of dirt on here. Let's say there's a big heavy windstorm, and it blew, let's say the farmer just plowed his farm field, and there's a lot of fresh soil that's open and exposed. He hasn't planted yet, and or she has not planted yet, and we'll see what happens. As you can see, the water is not running off into the dirt here. A little bit is, but not very much. And I think that tells us a lot about how important vegetation is because it holds water. So that is an important lesson in city planning, that the more parks we have, the more vegetation we have, the more trees we have, the better it is for everyone. And if we take care of our farms and plant well and have extra bit of forests in the corners of our fields, then we'll have less pollution. And of course, forests are always good for capturing water and holding on to it, and especially also wetlands, which is what Beaver creates. When Beaver makes a dam and the water backs up, it turns into kind of a small pond, a little bit of a wetland, and that helps also hold water. Yeah. So that's what we've done for today, and I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit about water. We'll be talking about more about water as the camp goes on, and we'll also have some challenges. All right, boys and girls, that wraps up things for today. Hope you enjoyed your time here in Nature Moments with Mr. Will, and I want to challenge, bringing on you guys, to go out and play in the dirt as well. Just go out and make a farm, a city, and a forest, and pour some water on it and see what happens. Just don't use any live trees. All right, so until next time, keep getting outside, because that's the most important thing. That's what we're here all about, is to encourage you guys to get outside, enjoy the birds, enjoy the sun, enjoy the water. Get out there and have fun. All right, until next time.